Hello everyone. Today we have Cody Johnson or CopyCody that top-8'd a skirmish with Data Doll, giving us a deck tech, and we are going to first explain how the Data Doll works, Cody's experience at the skirmish, we'll dive into a deck tech, and then some tips and tricks on how to play the deck. Hi Cody.
Hey, hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Uh, it's late here, but I mean you're on the West Coast, so it's got to be pretty nice. So, but I'm glad to jump on and talk about our favorite doll, Data Doll.
Yeah, I played the deck the other night and it was really fun. I went on 2-2, but we have two really good results with the deck in two different tournaments, so I'm eager to listen from your side and get better with the deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will say this with all the decks that we play in Flesh and Blood, there's good matchups and bad matchups. This deck overall is going to be more of mid range to the control side of things. You want to try to skew your match to go a little bit longer and try to set board up is the most important thing. So with Datadol, our wonderful hero, she when you are putting cards into your banish zone, anything 2 cost or less gets put into the arena around the battlefield. So the nice thing about that is all of the mechanologist cards that are items are 2 cost or less. So it's really about selecting what's best for Datadol. The other thing with how she plays, I really originally wanted to run Plasma Barrel Shot because it's definitely a boost style deck, but you don't get the value out of that. So ultimately, it turns into a pistol deck and a boost deck that you don't have to spend a lot to get a lot of value out of. And if you get to turn 3, I think it really opens the door to winning a lot of matches. So
Yeah, I've been liking the deck and you get a lot of incremental value, but and I agree with your core with the plasma barrel shot. Because you boost, but
hmm
you boost like at most twice per turn. So the
hmm
plasma barrel shot is an extra resource for an extra damage, and I don't think it's worth, especially if you can get the good items for the pistol that we will see later in the deck tech. So,
absolutely.
so do you want to talk a bit about your experience in the skirmish, and also you played it tonight to a positive record? If you want to talk a bit about the experience you had with the deck.
Yeah, so I would say overall, I really categorize my matches into uh, aggro, control, and mid range. As far as the aggro decks go in this format, um, you get your KO and you get your Viserai, which are going to be your more challenging matchups, just because they can pretty much like put pressure on so early that gets you below a certain threshold to where the 3 card hand really gets to be a disadvantage. But I would say there's 3 really favorable matchups with this deck, and they require some setup with the decks that are a bit more meta. The first is going to be Wizard. They're looking for their combo pieces. And so I feel like if you stay above the range where uh, they can hit you with that 12 or 13 point combo, 14 point combo, you're in the clear. So you have a lot of time to set up. Uh, Kasai, they're really looking for that blood on her hands turn. So they're not going to be able to get to the point to take you out because they're trying to build copper. And if you can establish your board state, block smartly, that matchup has gone favorable in most of mine. And then the other one that sets up is Reinar. So they're gonna attack for 6, or they're gonna try to set up stuff with Datadol. You're not going to be doing a lot of blocking from your hand in the early stages of the game. So you really are going to rely on your equipment suite. But as far as the skirmish and just general play has gone, I would say that Runeblade, particularly Viserai, is the most challenging matchup. And I think you can manipulate the deck and try to get out in front of other matchups in order to win uh, with Data Doll. Wizard is very favorable, and there's a lot of people playing Icelander and a lot of people playing Kano right now. So use that to your advantage. And I will say that you'll want to kind of hold back a little bit because they're going to want to attack you before your turn ends. So in those matchups, I kind of like to hold on to a blue card that will go into my arsenal uh, to use next turn or just to block arcane. But in general, I would say I feel like it's a bit of an anomaly that Data Doll isn't going to crush everything, but I don't think anything in the Flesh and Blood meta game is 100% all the time. So there's matchup variance, and I think this deck is just a ton of fun to play.
Yeah.
Cap can talk about, you can build like just goldfishing the deck. You can build 9 items on your board in 2 to 3 turns if you draw into the nuts. So I feel every deck has a bit of the nuts that can high roll anybody. And this deck is a little bit more different. It just takes a couple turns. You're not going to get that hand 15 damage kind of thing. You're going to get it around, turn 3 usually.
Yeah, especially if you hit the microprocessor. I think if you hit this card, you can set up like several items per turn, and also like if you have a good hit with the Teclo core, you're way far ahead.
Yep, for sure.
Should we jump into the deck tech?
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I'm just going to start with the weapon because it makes the most sense. The Plasma pistol. This is the only weapon that you're going to run. Plasma barrel shot is worthless in this matchup, uh, just because you're building a board state, so you want things that are going to pump your items, and you're not boosting a lot with a 3-card hand. The next most critical piece in the matchup, I rarely switch it out, is the Achilles Accelerator. And this is going to be the card that redeems your only miss in the entire deck when you're boosting. Um, and it also gives you like a little bit of extra pressure. If you have a Plasma pistol turn where you have the plasma purifiers going, you don't have another induction chamber. So if you don't see the Toma Fyendel, this card is fantastic and does not really come out. The next card that is important to this and also doesn't come out is the Teklo Foundry Heart. And this is the engine that keeps everything going. I don't run a different chess piece. There's no reason to. You're boosting every turn. So as long as you're boosting, you're getting 2 cards to your banish zone, and you're digging in your deck and you're looking for items to get on your board. So that's a 2 free, uh, 2 free banish to look for that. The the arm slot is where you're gonna find the most variance on what you're doing.
Yeah, we have a lot
You
of
might
arms.
not.
A lot. We have like
There's a lot of
5
arms.
different ones.
Exactly. You have 5 different arms. So this is to your preference, and I think it's kind of funny that you have a lot of choice with this. But the original build of the deck was a stubby hammerers build. Um, I don't run it very frequently. There's some things that you can do with the cards in the deck that could bring it into this, but this is any action cards with 3 base power or less, they get +1. And that was one of the main thing that I started building this deck off of regarding the boost. So everything was very low powered, looking to kind of chip in a little extra damage. The arm piece that I most frequently run is Iron Rock Gauntlet.
Yeah, I found myself
It's
playing
one
this
block.
one often too, just because blocks.
Yeah, so it's blocked. So you got Teklo that blocks for 2 and 1, and then you have Ironrock Gauntlet that is just a one block. I was running Ironhide Gauntlet, but the cost to pay for it with a 3 card hand to get the 2 block out of it wasn't worthwhile. But really good into Ninja and most of your matchups for sure. The No Rune Gloves comes in versus your Rune Blades and your Wizards. So you have Arcane Barrier 4 in your Wizard matchup. But uh, No Rune Gloves is a constant piece of Arcane Barrier because if you're running Visitronic or you're running Achilles Accelerator, those cards are going to go away. So at least that keeps the rune chance in check. Um, and then as a probably last gasp to attack, because there are a few in the deck, is Goliath Gauntlet. There, I basically ran out of equipment to run in this deck, so I just put this in a situation if you're in a local meta that might work. Um, so there's that. If you're looking at a throttle turn late where you need just that extra like pump to go over the top. And there's only one matchup, 2 matchups where you're going to run Gambler's Gloves, and that is into your Brute class. So uh, this is a huge lifesaver into the KO matchup as long as they're not on a ready to roll turn. So that this can save you, you know, if they're going to roll into a 12, you can roll it into a 4. So early game, you're going to break this. Um, they might match you, but that's the glove slot. And then in the helmet slot or the head slot, most of the time we are going to run Arcanite Skullcap. This is you're going to be taking damage early, so you're going to take a bit of blocking, or you're gonna activate its 2 block to 1 block, um, and it's in those attacky matchups. But the other one that you can run, which is a lot of fun early game, is Visitronic Model I. So this for 1 turn basically gives you microprocessor, draw a card, put a card from your hand on top of your deck. So this can be good early game. It also has Arcane Barrier 2, so it's a great card to start in the Runeblade matchups, especially with Rosetta Thorn threatening. But recently, uh, the Talismanic Lens for a very, very, very fast start. Because you're going to opt to as an instant on your first turn. If you draw into something that isn't what you want, you can pop Talismanic Lens. You know you're going to boost every turn, but you can start building board state with that card. So those are your 3 options. Uh, Personal preference and flavor are definitely there. And then for the less exciting people in the world, I have Iron Rot Legs, and it's there for 1 block. If you're looking for that like 6 block suite, Arcanite Skullcap, Teklo Foundry Heart, Iron Rod Gauntlet, you want the legs. It was hard to fill out the equipment suite with this deck because Teklo Foundry Heart and the arms, or Teklo Foundry Heart is the main, and then the arms are very much like where you want to build that, and also the headpiece. So, yeah, so that's the equipment suite there,
That's
and
interesting. Like I played into Runeblade, and I did not think about bringing in the new Rune gloves or the wizard trading model. I thought that's like, yeah, I have one arcane barrier from the boots, and it's fine. But
yep,
then the boots, you use them, you actually use the ability to sacrifice it, so then you remain without the runes.
right, yeah. So like I'm usually running I'm usually running a couple pieces of arcane barrier in that instance, so that's a very good like observation for sure.
Okay, shall we move to the items and why you include them?
Yep, absolutely. That's the thing that makes this deck completely work. Microprocessor. So you have three different actions. You can opt. You can draw a card, put the card from your hand on top of your deck, and then you can just banish the top card of your deck. So this works in concert with some of the other items that you may get, specifically the optical monocle. Um, Optical monocle and microprocessor on the board are a dangerous combo because optical monocle lets you just opt 5 times. So early board state for this deck, if you get optical monocle or a microprocessor on board, you are going to build board very fast um, to to put yourself in a position where you can like have some very 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 big turns. So and there's a bit of uh, confusion that starts to happen with the opponent when you start putting items on board so fast because they're used to playing dash and they're not used to seeing like the mechanical nature of this deck. But the mechanical nature of this deck is really really beautiful when you are not really having to pitch too much to get resources. You're able to block with this, and it's like you're manipulating your deck so much that it's yeah, it's confusing to the opponent. So yeah, so with the items, I really put them into like four categories, and there's four cards of each. So as Cap has on the board, he has a microprocessor and optical monocle.
This
These
is
are going to be your like
set
your
up.
deck manipulation tools. Yeah. So these you want to see these all the time. This is the core like cards. It helps you cycle your deck really quickly, and lets you y- put things in your banish zone or know what you're going to put in your banish zone so that you can get more items on the board. The cost of this deck may feel high, but when you know that you're banishing a card and it's going to go onto the board or in the arena, you're really just going to win if you know what's coming. So those cards there. The next thing I would say that is really important are going to be the boost cards, and those are the hyperdriver and your Teklo pounder. So the hyperdriver comes into the arena. It's got 3 steam counters on it. Whenever you boost, you gain a resource. So there's some zero cost cards that you can play to gain a resource, and then start Tekla Foundry Harding. So this is once this is on the board, you're going to boost every turn with the ratios of the deck that are set up. But Teklo Pounder, early game and late game, are fantastic cards because you're going to get this like +2 pump on your basically your first attack or any attack that comes through. So you'll remove the counter, of course, uh, but this like puts early pressure on. So you might have like a 2 attack card that now becomes a breakpoint card, or you might have a 3 attack card that's a 5 attack. So depending on how they want to manage their life total, this can more psychologically apply pressure. Um, and late game, it also helps close things out. So you're going to get a couple cards out of hand with Teklo Pounder, but Hyperdriver really is the fuel for this deck with the zero and some of the low attack cards. Before I get to the pistol, I will say that Dissipation Shield is the MVP of this deck.
I
We don't
agree.
run any yeah, we don't run any defense reactions in this deck. Um, the attack cards block for 3, but you have a quarter of your deck is going to be items, so there's not a lot of block. When you get a dissipation shield out, it blocks any damage. So it can be arcane damage, it can be physical damage. And when you get it out, we're in a 3 turn format. So if you see this in your first few turns, you know you're going to take the game an extra turn or two, which helps you build board state. So Dissipation Shield is probably like the best card to see because you just like breathe a breath of relaxation when it hits because you're not going to have to try to block anything on your turn. You can let a little more damage leak through. And then lastly is the pistol suite is the induction chambers, which the induction chamber is the go again, the pew 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 that you need to irritate people with 2 damage. Um, and it's when you start building this is where you're taking the game from kind of a mid-range and to just kind of being irritating too. Like you can shoot with your pistol, reload, try to draw cards out of their hand, feel your opponent out, and then the plasma purifier. This is critical in the matches like Oldhim, where you need to come over the top and you need to try to push a little extra damage. Um, I I think this is probably the least important out of the equipment suite. But in certain matchups, like it's good. So like when I draw into a plasma purifier, sometimes I'll pitch it if I need to. Obviously you want to get all your items on board, but the uh, the power that it has in these longer, grindier matchups to get the repeat 1+ damage on your pistol is good. So they're definitely an inclusion. None of the other items that Mechanologist has access to. The new ones, Signal Jammer and Dissolution Sphere, when they show up, they're just not relevant. You're not blocking. So Dissolution Sphere, like you don't have that like weird sort of, oh, Benji's coming at me +1. You can handle that. These games are so short that it doesn't matter, and you can't get them out when you want them to.
Yeah.
Same with Signal Jammer. Like I think Signal Jammer would be a great card in a format where there's a sideboard. You bring it in versus your Rune Blades. Same with uh, Dissolution Sphere, but these are definitely not includes in this deck. I looked at Metacarpus nodes and a few of the others, but when you start adding cards beyond these 14 in this deck, your draw of 3 cards gets diluted, and you start getting more items, and you can't do what you need to do. So these are the 14 cards that you need in your deck if you're running Data Doll. Period. End of story.
I agree with your assessments, and I feel like for the Signal Jammer, I've played as a one-off in Dash just because you start with an item in play. So if you
Yep.
play against Viserai or you play against Keno, they're like
Mhm.
limited and you slow them down. But yeah, in this deck, you don't start with an item in play. You need to find them, and if you
Yep.
probably when you find it, it's too late or it's in your hand and you use it to pitch.
Yeah. It always feels bad. You're just like, oh gosh, I wish this was something else.
Shall we move to the boost cards so we can see how we are banishing the cards besides Tackle Foundry Heart, plus how we apply
Yep.
pressure?
All right. So the boost cards, and I think the pitch color is really important. I think the cost curve is really important in this deck.
Yeah, I've noticed you have a lot
So
of blue cards in as many of the boost attacks. So also, if you want to tell the viewers why we are playing that many blues instead of going for like the red most powerful ones.
yeah, so I think in the more physical matchups, the blue cards still block for 3. And in the matchups where you have arcane damage coming in, you're gonna want the blue cards to be able to pitch to like kind of save the day. So that's like really where I skewed this list a little bit more blue in the wizard matchup. Specifically, like there was an instance tonight where I used microprocessor to get rid of a yellow card in my hand to like draw a card, put a card on the top of your deck. I drew into a blue and I put the yellow, and it saved the game for me. So whereas these attacks are pretty underpowered, um, you're not really going for big over the top attacks. You're going for, I'm trying to like force them to block or say, oh, that's two, that's one, that'll leak in. That's like I'm okay with taking that. Like so that's kind of where I stand on the blue. The blue cards also have like the pumps on them because I think the pumps late game with high speed impact and combustible courier, either the dominate or the +3 are really important to have because you're pitching blue early uh, with this. So that's like what I would say kind of about the blue. I originally didn't start with throttles in this deck, and I feel some need to maybe move them out. I feel those are the cards that might be uh, a bit like that could come in and come out for maybe like a yellow zipper hit on the yellow throttle, but the throttle has the amount of damage. So if you get a Tekla Pounder in play, the throttle is a really nice card to have because then you're starting to like there's a bit more punishment in your deck than just a bunch of small attacks. So I found it was a really good balance, and overall, I think uh, they're needed in there. So it does skew blue. The zero attack cards with the T-bone and the 0 to 60, you're gonna see these cards um, pretty regularly. They are three ofs, so there is 12 of them. You're gonna see them about as frequently as your items in your hand. So you're gonna draw close to one per turn. So you're automatically know you're gonna like when it comes down to ratios that you're going to have a zero attack card, and then zero to zipper hit. We're running the blue in this, and then I have yellow throttles right now. But that's your other like kind of chip in kind of low cost damage here. So
Sounds
yeah,
really
so they feel good. This balance of pitch feels good. So if you were to manipulate this deck on your own, I would say you could play around with the amount of damage, but I wouldn't mess with the pitch as much because the pitch feels good. You're always full of resources. You're never looking at a frostbite token or a channel lake frigid as bad as it really could be. So, but that's kind of the core of the deck. If I'm gonna arsenal any of these cards, it's always kind of at the end of the turn and kind of how I feel the match going. High speed impact is a one cost card and zipper hit. Those two are a couple of my arsenal options. Uh, they're not free. I like to spend my free cards to boost. But sometimes you get to the end of your turn, you might not have a resource, and those are one cost, so you can kind of account for that there. Overloop in a long matchup really sits there because of the old him. If you need to recycle a card and they're just going to take damage because they're not feeling threatened early game, that's decent. Again, it could be a card that you take out, but the pitch balance is good. T-bone 0 to 60, great. Maybe a little bit more zipper hit if you want to be a bit more aggressive, but um, I think I think this feels pretty excellent.
also, I've liked the zero cost ones because sometimes you have to block with the cards in your hand, and
Hmm.
since you only have three, and having a zero cost in your hand to save to just like do like a small attack, maybe trigger the hyperdriver or just hit an
Hmm.
item, keeps you like progressing the board state if
Mhm.
you keep one in hand.
Yeah, there's a lot of instances where you have a hyperdriver or two on the board. You keep that zero cost card, you play it, you have 1 to 2 resources, you go to Teklo Foundry Heart, and then you start banishing more cards to get more items on the board. So that's exactly what you want to do with those zero cost. You hold on to those. Um, in a situation you could arsenal one, but I usually spend those.
Sounds good. And then we have two flex slots that you are playing in the deck.
Mhm.
And it's High Octane and Tome of Fendal. Can you
Exactly.
explain why you're
So,
playing those?
so high octane uh, is you're boosting every turn, so you're going to gain action points. Which late game, if you put a high octane in your arsenal and you're boosting something, you're gaining an action point. To me, that gives you an extra shot with your pistol. So that's more of this like, all right, I don't have to induction chamber this. I can have an action point to use to like put a little extra pressure on. So it also replaces itself with a draw card, uh, and then you always want like some sort of resource floating as well. The Toma Fyendel, this is just card advantage. So there's only one miss in the deck, and it is this card. When you boost this card, because you boosted, you can pop your Achilles accelerator. You can keep your turn going. If you're fortunate enough to put this in your arsenal, you can boost with your 3 card hand, play Toma Fiendel, gain 4 life. So to me it feels like another like dissipation shield. There's 12 points of protection in this deck. And Toma Fiendel is definitely one of those. It also gives you a 4 card hand after you've already attacked once. So you're gonna get a big swipe at somebody on these turns. It makes me think of when I was playing Rhinar and Runeblade. I always had a Toma Fiendel that I wanted in my deck because I wanted to like come over the top with a big turn. In a 4 card turn in Data Doll, when you're set up is very destructive. So that's why I play it, life gain and that. So you're never going to miss with this deck as long as you don't burn your Achilles accelerator on a non-Toma Fyendel turn. So you're always getting go again. You can always go wide, and it just feels good. So these 2 cards allow you to go wide.
This was an awesome and exhaustive deck tech. Do you have any other tips and tricks, or how you set up your turns or your overall game plan of the deck?
Yeah, I would say overall, you are going to use your equipment to block, stay above 12. That is my suggestion. Stay above 12. Build your board state and start threatening. I think that's probably the best advice with this deck. I think you could say that about a lot of things, but this deck snowballs. It is not you know, you're not going to throw down a turn 1 damage and kill somebody. So I would say like be very cognizant of your life thresholds. Stay above 12, stay above 7, um, and then after that you just YOLO and you're just gonna try to do what you can, boost, hopefully set up an item and do that. Um, Using your arsenal, if you have the ability on your first turn, if you draw like a zero cost item like optical monocle, um, don't pitch it, don't try to save it. um, Try to get it out there. Optical monocle and microprocessor are going to be your 2 best things. um, you're you're never going to draw into the nuts. The most nuts hand you're going to draw on an open is a zero attack boost, optical monocle, and a Toma Fiendel, where you're gonna play a boost card. Hopefully, you hit your boost, get go again, play a zero cost optical monocle, and arsenal your Toma Fiendel for your next turn. So don't feel like if on turn one you're not starting out okay. You're really looking at boosting as much as possible because you will always get go again, or you will find an item, or you'll be able to look for an item. So um, that's really how I would look at that. Is your first play, as far as like how your turns are going to be, you're going to play a boost attack. You are hopefully you don't have to pitch for resources if you have a hyperdriver out, but don't feel bad about pitching for your resources, activating Techno Foundry Heart, cycling two more cards, hopefully putting some more items on, and then with whatever resources you have left over, put them towards your pistol. So and chip damage and kind of that way there. So I guess what to look out for is after your first two turns, I think that's when you start considering blocking without your equipment, unless it makes sense. If you're playing against a wizard, they're going turn one. Obviously, you're going to draw back up. You always want to go first with this deck. You always want to go first with
Yeah,
this
going
deck,
second is
100%
rough.
of the time. Yeah, like second against wizard is okay, and I don't know why they would choose that, but like you want to go first all the time because even if you draw into something, if you drew into an item hand, you can at least like pitch, play an item, pass turn, draw back up, cycle your deck, and you're okay. So I would say that's you know after like turn two or three or when you get below 12 life is when you need to start like considering blocking. But sometimes you just build a board state. Your turns are going to be long, and that's okay because you're going to be optical monocle. You can dig into your deck uh, with microprocessor. You're going to be able to dig in your deck. If you're playing the talismanic lens, you're going to be digging into your deck. Find those items, put them on the top, boost an attack. Start setting up board. And again, Cap and I have played this. You get you can get 9 items out on your board in the first 3 turns.
Yeah, I
It
think
doesn't
like
happen all the time,
I
but
think
I would say like four or five is like pretty normal in your first 3 turns.
yes, I think gold fishing without blocking, I was able to get to probably between 6 to 8, like on like the most of the times. Sometimes up to 9. Sometimes it happens that
Mhm.
you like whiff, but it's part of the deck. I feel like it's almost like playing Keno without knowing the top of your deck sometimes.
Yeah, everything in Blitz high rolls though, for
Yeah.
the most part. Like everybody's gonna try to high roll. So if you lose, you lose. I'm here to have fun, and I really enjoy this deck. I think there is a competitive side to it. I'm gonna keep iterating on it, but like like everything in Blitz can high roll everything. So you
Okay.
just hope for that, and that's it.
A question about microprocessor. Which modes
Mhm.
do you usually choose or you find yourself using the most?
I would say the modes that I typically use are draw a card and put a card from your hand on top of your deck. Usually, you're drawing into an item, and if you do draw another item, at least you get to pick which item you want on top of your deck. So, depending on the state of the game, um, a plasma purifier in your hand isn't very good. So if you have a hyperdriver and a micro hyperdriver and a plasma purifier that you draw, like you can switch, you can put the uh, put the card that you want on the top of the deck. So again, like plasma purifier can be really great. I like to see that card later in the game when I'm starting to like try to extend it out, but I would say draw and then put a card on top of your deck. When you have optical monocle in play, banish is one of the best modes that you can select. So if you're fortunate enough to get an optical monocle out and you can opt, you can just use your microprocessor to banish. So if you get something like a hyperdriver or a Teklo pounder, you're able to banish that card before you do your boost attack. So
Okay.
um yeah, so the like it can speed up the kind of the boost damage or help gain resources. I do opt in certain situations where you just want to cycle your deck. So, like, you're kind of happy with your hand. You don't care what you're boosting, or you're just trying to dig a little bit more. Obviously, you want to see an item. So, opt, put an item, like, if it's not uh, item card, put it underneath. That's the rule of this deck. Opt, not an item card, put it underneath. Opt, no, not an item card, put it underneath. And then you're just stacking your deck late game for just like boost attacks and a good pitch.
Sounds good. Do you have any other tips and tricks for this deck for the viewers?
Yeah, don't go on tilt. Like you just got to be like cool and just like chill. Um, you're gonna win some games, you're gonna lose some games. This
Yeah.
isn't a silver bullet. I think for me as a player, I'm more of a fringe deck player. I played Rhinar through the last CC season. Um, had some really nice success with it. Top eight at a Pro Quest. Definitely like beat a lot of Starvos, which felt good. But if you're looking at like just showing up and like wanting to win your skirmish, this might not be the deck for you. But if you like to see what this game can do, then play this deck because it is super fun. If you high roll somebody, you get 9 items on it. Just seeing the face of people frustrated, like at turn 2 or 3, when this deck gets rolling, is completely worth it to me. And I was fortunate enough to top eight in a larger event with it. Um, some of it was luck, some of it was matchup, but um, yeah, I think Data Doll is a great deck to play.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for your time, Cody. It was really useful to learn from you, from the deck, all the tips and tricks. Definitely, I learned a lot of things that I was probably doing wrong. So whenever I get a chance to play Data Doll again, I will apply them. Do you have any like socials or anything you want to shout out or plug?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at CopyCody. And honestly, I just hang out on a lot of Discords. So if you want to go see Fresh and Buds, I hang out there. Outcast Haven guys are local to me. I play with those guys. I hang out with those guys. Cool people. But yeah, and then I'm on the main Discord. So uh, Arsenal Pass, like I hang out there. Drew Cordell, I'm on his site too. So yeah, I'm not ever gonna have a Discord, but I'd like to hang out with you guys on the Discord, and I will see you guys in New Jersey. And if I scrub out, let's go have a drink
Or two or three.
or a lot. Yes.
Oh.
So cool.
Thanks again, it was awesome. And yeah, if the viewers have questions, I will link your Twitter in the description of the video. And just check out the Discords. Like as I said, it's in most of the Flesh and Blood creators and Flesh and Blood Discords, so you can find him there. From me, thanks everybody for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.